And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us. I am Joshua Fredlin. Corey is actually joining us today. He is not dead or dying. He is in Iowa. Aaron Castro is in Arizona. Liam Poach is somewhere in Massachusetts. We don't know exactly where.
Kind of Revere, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I will also be in the comments section, so hit me up with your thoughts and questions throughout the show. So, guys, how was your week?
Flew up to Denver for I'm going to call it Can-Am weekend because there was 2 games. But as per usual, events don't get coordinated or people don't get informed of. And there were a few things on Friday that I may have wanted to go to, but found out too late. So I just stuck with my plans, and we went to Greeley to see Brooke's grandma and aunt. And then also spent most of Sunday with my sister-in-law. And while we were at brunch, trying to convince her and her husband, who's actually flying with the Navy over the weekend, to become Raptor season ticket holders since they just moved to Colorado. But, Saturday was – and I saw Josh on Saturday. That was, as per usual, hanging out at Infinity Park, snapping up amazing photos for all of you to take a look at. So if you haven't seen his posts on our Facebook, on our Instagram, or his own personal albums that he linked, check those out. But great weekend, kind of tired. It was funny. I spoke with Mikey Teo after the game. He won't be He did not. Well, I guess won't be going to Fiji. He did not go to Fiji, and he was talking. He's like, you know what? I'm thinking about going down to Phoenix to train because he's still a couple weeks away with his foot. So, and I was like, he's like, yeah, that 115-degree weather. I was like, bro, if you want to come, just let me know. But it's kind of awful. Oh man. So yeah, great weekend. I guess Canada Hate Week is over, started by the American Rugby Pod. It was just something that I didn't really think I was gonna see, But Liam, how was your weekend?
So my weekend was pretty good. Obviously, it was capped off with being able to watch the game on Saturday night. So as you guys can probably tell from our email chain, at first I wasn't able to watch the game, but finally I coughed up the money, the $20 a month to watch the Rugby Pass through NBC Gold. So I was able to eventually catch the majority of the game.
It's not $20 a month. It's $60 for the whole year, which is much better
for the whole year. But I'm only paying $20 for the month because I don't want NBC Gold for the whole year. There's no reason for me to have it. Other than that, though, I officially signed my contract with the New England Free Jacks. So people watching this podcast, I am now officially the official team journalist of the New England Free Jacks. I'm very happy for this opportunity to be working in my hometown, to be a Boston journalist. And I'm looking forward to moving forward with that in the best possible way. And especially no longer being with the Houston SaberCats. I'm not going to say one way or another whether that's a good thing, wink, wink. But, yeah, I'm very excited to be where I'm at right now.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations on that.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, yeah, I guess things have been pretty crazy around here. Yeah, as you noticed, I wasn't on last week.
But you did get a beard trim.
I got a beard trim. I'm trying to look slightly more professional. But between work stuff and family commitments, it's just been kicking my butt. So, yeah. That kind of leads into some announcements and some updates on kind of what we're doing with the show and what I'm doing. So you guys may have seen on Twitter that we announced that this is our last week on YouTube. And that is because YouTube's actually changing how they deal with live streamers and stuff like that. So they're
no longer this is a bad development. Boo.
Yeah, they're not going to be providing as many resources to us to be able to do this for free. So we're examining our options and going to figure out what we're going to do from here. But we are still going to be putting out our weekly shows. It just may not be broadcast live for a little bit. We may be shifting to Facebook. We'll figure something out. So know that we're not going anywhere, but you may have to wait till Wednesdays for the pod to come out if worst case scenario happens and we're not able to go live. So with that noted, I just wanted to say that going into summer break after the PNC here, actually starting next week, I am going to be stepping back behind the camera. So this season I've got to hang out with you guys and kind of co-host, and it's been absolutely fantastic and I've loved it. But because of, kind of family work commitments and then just some opportunities to really focus on technical and promotional opportunities for the show itself, I'm going to start using my resources back behind the camera while Aaron and Liam really take the lead, and Josh hops in once in a while. We'll have some special guests popping in and out, and who knows, we may be announcing a third host sometime in the future. We'll figure that out. But the important thing to know is that even though we have some personnel changes, even though we have broadcast changes, we're not going anywhere, and that's all because of you guys and the fact that you're showing up every week, that you're listening, that you're watching the show. So from the bottom of my heart, let me just say, I really appreciate you guys being with us the last 2 years and for letting us do what we love. You guys really stepped up here a few weeks ago for our fundraiser, and that's going to allow us the security to go into the next 2 to 3 seasons.
Yeah, for real, everybody who donated, I want to give you a special personal shout out. You did so much for this show that we can't even articulate into words, what it means to us. It really, it really hits hard to know that you guys actually enjoy the show enough that you would donate some money. Aaron's doing some fake crying right now.
Well, I will say via text message and via email, I did harass him. And I mean harass because it was a lot. And I said, you don't have to leave. You don't have to do this. And he's like, you know what? Remember that thing that I originally said about how I wanted to do the show? Yeah, I want to go. I want to do that. And I was like, but please. And he's like, no, I think it's best. I'll still be your dad. I will still be the dad of the show.
That's the thing I think everybody was worried about, was that we want Corey to still be our podcast dad. Corey, I don't know what I would do without you, man. Without you logging on every Monday, I think I might just be lost. I would just be hitting my head against the freaking wall. God, just listening to Aaron every Monday, of course I would be hitting my head against the freaking wall.
Yeah, well, the sad thing is you guys are the smart ones. I'm just standing here reading words that you wrote. So I think you're in hands. I don't think you have anything to worry about. So quick shout out to all of our properties. We got Earful of Dirt, we got Enla Melee, and we got Lineouts. And once again, this is all because of the listeners, you guys making this possible. And it's been a lot of fun. I will still be here, and I'll even jump on air once in a while. So you won't get rid of me 100%, but
most definitely.
Be sure to hit me up at Corey Munson on Twitter, so you can find me there for sure.
And if we ever get a test match in Iowa, I guess we know who gets to go.
Exactly. So when the MLR expansion comes to Des Moines, I'll be there. All right. That's it for me.
You joke, but at this point, it's not even the most unlikely thing. No, I don't even want this.
Maybe I could finally get hired by a team if they launch a Des Moines outfit. All right, guys. Josh, take us away, man.
All right, now that we got the sad news out of the way, for those new to the podcast, each Monday night during the Major League Rugby season, we discuss news and rumors from Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union. It's a chance to look at the issues, hear from the league, players, and team leadership, and check in with our friends from across the U.S. rugby scene. That said, Aaron, what are we covering this week?
All right, we're going to do sort of a short PNC round 1 recap of the 2 other games involving 4 teams. Then we're going to just get into that USA versus Canada shellacking. And then a USA versus Samoa preview. I won't really preview the Canada versus Fiji match because, well, I think you guys will understand about that. And then Tonga plays Japan. So we won't really dig too deep into that because I haven't looked very hard at the Japan roster, but we will do that next week in our preview to sort of give you an idea of their makeup.
So I do have to ask though, just because it gave me a little trouble last time. How cognizant do I have to be that Ray Barkwell might be listening to this podcast? Because
I mean, he's apparently like
he's retired.
He's retired, but he is the U20 scrum coach, I believe, or assistant coach for them. So I remember all these. I'm pretty sure we get listened to by players, team executives. It's kind of
we do. We do. Believe me, I've like all last season when I was working for the SaberCats, that I was given shit every time I picked against them. That's why I stopped picking teams who were playing the SaberCats.
So Raimondo, if you listen, you know where to find me. Okay? Thanks.
See. But no, it was more so just like 6 foot, 7 foot tall giants like Matt Truville would be like, Pouchy, why the hell did you pick against us this week? I wasn't down for that. So.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. I'll try and take Corey's job and try to keep us on track. Aaron, why don't you give us a recap of round 1?
So if anyone got a chance to see Tonga versus Samoa, it was the Mud Bowl. There was a lot of chatter, especially after the Super Series chatter about conditions. But if anyone actually watched the game, because the pictures being shared were pictures at the 35th minute, pictures at the 50th minute, pictures at the 80th minute. Okay, so it was the Mud Bowl. They were playing in basically, I think it's typhoon is what they call it. Not a hurricane. Typhoons are in the Pacific, I guess. They were playing a typhoon, and it was awful. If everyone remembers the San Diego versus Seattle game in March down at Torero, where there was so much rain that, it didn't matter how the ball didn't need to bounce that hard. It could set it down from an inch and a huge puddle would go up. Well, that field was saturated, and that field is now definitely unplayable. That was played in Apia, Samoa. So, there are no more games that I know of that will be taking place in Samoa. The rest are in either Japan or in Fiji. So we'll find out if there's more rain this weekend if we tear up another field, because the field was out in decent condition. But
so, Aaron,
Torero,
do you think it would have been more optimal to have more games in the United States as opposed to just one at Xfinity?
I think that we have a lot more high quality pitches in the United States than there are
Aviva.
Yeah, so you've got Aviva. The Samoa game was at their national stadium. That, I've seen that pitch when it's not like this, and it was decent. It's pretty. I mean, I wouldn't say it's Twickenham, but
but at the same time, even what was it, the Real Salt Lake home stadium, they hosted one of the Warriors games, and it was a pristine field with a huge attendance number. Why was that completely unavailable for something like the PNC?
So part of this, I think part of this is Japan is running some logistics exercises, because all of their games, not all of their games, because they're going to play this other one in Fiji when they play us in round 2. But for the first 2 rounds, Japan, I guess, is doing some logistics exercises for the World Cup. But, I mean, I don't know. I think part of this is to give one of the island nations some revenue. That's
very true.
They do need the unions do need some revenue, whereas they have played I think a whole PNC in the United States, and that gives none of the teams chance for revenue sharing, really, because the small unions have to, like us, we're a small union. Let's just put that out there. The tier 2 unions need these exercises of event promotion to learn how to generate revenue and to generate revenue through events. Guess what? This is Saturday was one of the few games that USA Rugby probably makes money at. Like, they packed the crap out of Infinity Park. They sold a ton of beer, and they sold a ton of hot dogs. Oh my gosh.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, though, is that, you know, a game that's sold out at Xfinity could easily have sold out at Aviva or even at a place like Starfire Stadium or something like that. So if you expand that, you know, if you expand the experience over 2 or 3 games, I think, like, you know, now that hindsight is 2020 and stuff like that, I think maybe, like, you know, at the next PNC, we could be seeing a lot more games held at United States venues, just, you know, from the fact that it's now known that we can make money from them just based on attendance at Xfinity alone.
Yeah. It would be smart, especially if, you know, we stay in the PNC for a while instead of what previously happened, which was we basically got kicked out.
I mean, we're not going to be going to the Champions Cup anytime soon, because that would just be the R word right there.
But getting into this game, really, Tonga was not as well. They were undisciplined. They tackled high a lot. I mean, Samoa did too, but they committed infringements. I believe they got red and stuff like that. So it was what it was, and you had all this other stuff going on. What happened was Samoa was more disciplined, and it was. I couldn't even like previewing this game is going to be tough for the US because it was like rain is the equalizer. Rain kind of can deteriorate rugby games, and that's what happened. It was just sort of mud wrestling.
But at the same time, though, is like while rain could absolutely deteriorate rugby games, sometimes I feel like the United States does a better job at this ground and pound style of rugby where it's a lot more forward oriented. And when you have a lot more, you know, moist conditions, I feel like that's the kind of, you know, style of play that you're gravitated towards. So in some ways, I think the United States stands a better chance in these more rained out games with people like Paul Mullen, people like Chance and stuff like that, who are carrying the ball. Even Aj McGinty, who was able to, to take it between tacklers and stuff like that, as well as get it out wide. He's probably more suited to play it, in a rainy game where the opposition's, options are limited, as opposed to ours.
Oh, for sure. I think we sort of showed that with the style of play and the attack we did on Saturday. Getting into Fiji, they lost 21-35 to Japan. Well, their scrum half is an idiot. Let's just say that. Apparently, some people think that pinching guys' butts is part of the game. He also stepped on Japan's foot.
So can we talk about how big of a thing on social media this was?
Oh, it was huge.
Was this scrum half pinching the other one's butt? Like, if rugby was bigger, this would be a bigger non-story than freaking Deflategate was at this point. It's just like the biggest nothing.
Here's my thing about this. In America, you can't pinch the guy's butt. You could grab his butt, or you could slap it and say good game and get away with it. But pinching a guy's butt, you're liable.
No, that was intimidation. That was total mind games. I've played the same kind of stuff in a rugby game like myself. There was no good game about it. He was pinching his ass and he was trying to do it to be funny.
I mean, you could not you would get away with it if it's more of a good game type thing here. Whereas I'm surprised they didn't get into a fight.
He didn't get into a fight, but it wasn't a good game kind of thing. Like that's why I'm kind of like on the line about like how I feel about it. Like if it was a D2, D3 college rugby thing, I would have loved it. But the fact that it was on the professional stage was kind of like, come on now, man.
I don't think you get away with doing that in the United States, like for the most part.
BS, dude.
No,
I got away with it.
I'm talking about at the top level of the game. I don't think Sean Davies is going to deal with that. I think there's going to be a fight because he does like to fight. That was apparently the only thing that came out in this game was Japan's scrum half getting his foot stepped on and getting pinched in the butt. But if that's all we're going to talk about, Japan is probably going to be a very tough opponent in 2 weeks because they did their thing. They beat Fiji, who is more athletic, who is bigger, and they did it with good form. So yeah.
To be fair, isn't Japan basically a tier 1 nation without the name?
Well, I would say competitively, Fiji is currently a tier 1 nation without the name. I would say Japan is sort of like your Italy in that they have the money. They are definitely money-wise a tier 1 nation without the name and have basically hovered, at the I'm knocking on the top 10 for a while. And they are ranked number 11. So, but Fiji, I think, is 9th right now. So competitively, Fiji is currently your tier 1 nation in all but name. But off the field, they are definitely not.
All right. So let's move on to the shellacking that happened this weekend. In case y'all missed it, the Eagles drained the maple syrup for the bucket by beating Canada 47-19.
Hell
And
yeah.
Liam, you want to start, or should we give you some time and have Aaron start?
No, I'll go ahead and start just because I don't have notes in front of me the same way that Aaron does right now. So when it comes to this game, I was much more impressed with the pace that the United States was able to play at through a large majority of the game, which is exactly what I think we're going to be needing by the time the Rugby World Cup comes around. You saw it especially in the second half when they realized that they had a lead that they needed to capitalize on. We had seen Canada in a bunch of other circumstances come back from being down in games to being able to either make it close or being able to defeat us, and we didn't want it to be happening this time around. We knew that we needed to kind of set the tone for how we were going to be playing in the Rugby World Cup this year, and I think we really did it this time around against Canada, especially like when it comes to Dylan Fawcett, playing in the scrum, playing very physical. Playing very smart, but when it comes to the ball in hand, he may as well be like a number 13 or number 14 out there because he can absolutely carry it. The fact that we were able to use all of our substitutes and kind of make it a very cohesive, very fluid, process of substitution, I thought spoke volumes about the way that Gary Gold played this game and kind of utilized the.
Capelli decided that he only wanted to be used for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly, but regardless, I think Gary showed that he was able to utilize the pieces that he had, at his disposal to a very effective, to a very effective method. And I think Canada is definitely they're in our lane enough that we showed our prowess tonight. I guess you could say that we are a very capable team on the national stage. And we should absolutely ring up at least 1 or 2 victories during the Rugby World Cup in 2019. Aaron's probably going to get into a lot more of the specifics. But like I said, I was very impressed with the pace that the United States team was able to play with during this game, as well as the fact that they were at least able to recycle inside the 22. I feel like a big problem that we've been seeing with the national team over the last couple of games is their inability to actually get any kind of offensive momentum going inside the 22s. It's all been between them, and whereas you kind of get lucky inside the 22s, this time I think they were actually creating more offense. They were getting more progress off of micro plays in general, and I think that that's definitely a very good thing heading towards the Rugby World Cup, where it's going to get a lot more technical and you're going to rely a lot more on the small details of how you play the game.
So originally when I saw this roster, I felt it was a bit experimental, and I kind of said that out there, and some people were like, huh, and and the reason why I say that is it looked more like an America's Rugby Championship roster when we don't have everyone together, but it shows that you have enough to where you should compete at a high level and really be able to do what we did. The spine, very solid guys that had seen plenty of time under Gary Gold. We're not talking about, guys who are just out forever. Aj McGinty started at 10. Without him, I don't know where we're at. Cause he is, he's a world-class 10, period. End of story. 2 years ago or a year ago, he was definitely the top fly half in the premiership, although he didn't get the awards. So voters, you suck. But I still, a lot of guys in combination, overall the combinations none of these have really been traditionally used together. But the spine and the lock combination gave this team enough of what they could to turn the screws. And then you sort of, one thing that was mentioned by Grant Cole is like, all of these players are high-level, high IQ defensive players that were put on this team, and we saw that significantly. When I saw the Canadian roster later that day, which was last Thursday, I was relatively concerned because overall I felt that they put out more of their front line versus we did, and that was at the time. And they were debuting a new fly half in Peter Nelson, who's only played fullback, really. When he previously played with Ulster. And so that was probably their big concern there. They also capped Benoit Pifferot, not Pifferot. He started. He did not get capped because he earned another cap. But Andrew Quattrin, who is a reserve hooker, did get debut. Then we get into preparation. Our guys, about half the group had a total of 7 weeks together, and then the other half that played late in the MLR season gave you this total group together for 5 weeks. Canada, Saturday was their 14th day together, then at altitude. Looking at our attack, our coaches were a bit disappointed when we took contact. There were quite a few times, especially in the first quarter and overall in the first half, that we just coughed up the ball in contact, whether it went backwards or it was a knock-on. The difference in the past was the level of conditioning they had. They were able to transition into defense, and they didn't give Canada any of these opportunities. On defense, we were extremely physical. Sometimes you want to force double tackles when you're on attack, and also on defense, you also want to use double tackles so that guys do not make ground, and you are able to also physically pummel them with these double tackles. When you're attempting to force double tackles on attack, you're attempting to tire someone out. When your intention is to do double tackles, it's to batter the attacking team and have them cough up the ball, which Canada did, and that's how we ended up, 20-7 in the first half. Going into the sheds. We did play with this intent, and I think to sort of prepare for poor conditions when we jump off to Fiji, because we definitely used our kicking game a lot, and we attacked their playmakers. One of their wings, their starting wings, and Jeff Hassler collided with Taylor Paris in practice and lost both of his front teeth. He had already lost one of those front teeth previously, so he had a fake tooth that he also lost, so he needed a bunch of stitches, and at some point I think he's either going to pull a Kyle Bailey and not get those replaced, or
fake teeth cost a lot of money, I'm pretty sure, too, right? Don't they?
Yeah, they're not, like, the whole process is not cheap, right? Because you have to have oral surgery to get those inserted. So either he's going to pull a Kyle Bailey and just roll without him, or he's going to have 2 fake teeth inserted into his right here. So he wasn't available, but DTH Vandermerve was, and he showed you DTH Vandermerve stuff. Like, he was very hard to tackle. He was very physical. But at the end of the day, we did not give Connor Trainer. We did not give not Taylor Paris. I forget who was their fullback, or Connor Trainer or DTH anything. And the reason why we didn't give them anything is because our transition and our defense, like one of the guys that was being talked about in camp, I didn't really hear a lot about Jamison Fauna Schultz, but I did go back and watch the broadcast, and they talked about him. Whereas I was talking to some of the guys around camp on Saturday, and so I'll talk to Jamal about Jamal later, but one of the guys who really showed out, who started at wing, was Martin Yosefo. And this is a guy who has the physical build to be a winger the way we want to be a winger. He's got the physical build. He's got the pace. He's got the conditioning. He played all 80 minutes. Like, he got after it. And he was physical. He broke through tackles. He probably made 80 meters when he carried the ball. And he was being talked about as a guy that really, I think he only had 3 caps before this. And he's like, the coaches are like, he's just gotten after it, you know?
It's one of those things though where I feel like in the United States, when you think of the body, like the prototypical type for a wing, you think of like these like skinny, scrawny guys who might not be able to break through contact very easily, but can definitely run. Whereas I think that it's a lot more different thinking with some of these more Southern Hemisphere oriented teams where you want backs who can muscle a little bit through the back line.
So what would our back line look like if let's just say Ryberg got caught up with Iosefo and Ryberg on the wings?
It would. I mean,
I'm calling up someone else than Ryberg before.
So here's the thing. I think with somebody like Ryberg, you might not have the field awareness that you would want. With somebody like especially on the national stage. I mean, the physicality might be there, but I think like rugby IQ is something that has to be taken into account on in a large scale when it comes to a national team.
I think
nothing against Ryberg's a rugby IQ either, but he's still a young guy.
I look at Johnny Ryberg, and people are like, why hasn't he been called up? I don't know why. Like, he is a top wing in MLR, but sometimes guys are just club players. They just are. I got into a discussion about another wing.
Mika Cruz. I don't want to.
Well, Mika Cruz is 20 years old and he got capped. So let's not talk. Like, I'm not throwing his name into this, but there was another wing that was like I was in a discussion with about why he wasn't called up, and I'm like, guys, wing and back row, and this I say guys to our listeners and gals, or just guys or dudes and dudettes. Wing and back row are the 2 longest lines to break out because there are like 5 capped wings that are playing in MLR right now that like have their hands up that with their performance. So I understand there are some.
Wouldn't even be bad options either. Like not even a backup option.
No,
we actually have that much depth at this point.
We're talking about guys who have started for long periods of time that have also been in this player pool, that are in this player pool right now that were named that weren't in camp. So one of the things going into the World Cup especially is this is not really the place you experiment. Like, the reason why Jamison Vaughn and Anna Schultz got called up is because, at a certain position like number 8, especially with the retirement of Samu Manoa, Cam Dolan is our only true number 8 that was there. Reichert Hadding was called up, but he was, from what I understand, he had a knee infection, and so he was sent home. So I guess I was completely wrong last weekend, wondering why Reichert Hadding hadn't been called up from the outer squad list. He actually was when Samu Manoa retired, but he didn't pass medical. So
it's one of those things where you realize in USA Rugby that that injury reports are not exactly mandatory, that it's just kind of literally just finding out through the grapevine about who is injured.
That's really a rugby issue in general. I feel like when you're trying to find out it's not an MLR thing, it's not an international thing, it's like this rugby across the board. I wouldn't say there's a lack of transparency, but players two of the reasons why you have these injury reports in major American sports is gambling and collective bargaining agreements. People want transparency when it comes to these 2 injuries. So, but in rugby, we really don't have that. We're starting to see that a lot more, especially with the national team. There was a press release about Nick Trivetta, his injury. He has a lower limb injury. I think he probably had X-rays almost immediately, and I think based on what that was, he probably would have an MRI in the next day or so, and then we'll find out if he, if we'll get updated what the final diagnosis and then prognosis is for his recovery. But so yeah, that's sort of my that's sort of the thing about injuries. Hey guys, I want injury reports because I think it's good, especially when gambling becomes like a thing in MLR. You're gonna need to have those. The moment like sports books in the United States in Vegas, if every sports book has Rugby World Cup betting, at some point you're gonna have to have detailed injury reports because it's gonna be insider trading, right? So what did we do? We relied heavily on our set piece when we were on attack. We kicked to the corner often, and we used our maul, and we just beat them up. If you look at the line out, we were 100% in our line out, and then we disrupted theirs the whole time.
So here's the thing, though. What I found, especially in the second half, is that the pace of play tended to get interrupted a lot, especially when it came to Canada committing penalties, which, don't get me wrong, gave the United States plenty of opportunities, especially in the set piece. But how much did that affect the ultimate outcome of the game when it said that we were able to get these set piece opportunities so often because Canada was so penalty prone, especially in the second half?
Well, I think looking back at the whole game, we gave up our own opportunities to run our attack, like our full attack, and just run through multiple phases and then push the ball wide and take overmatch with athletes, like Yosefo, like with Scully, like with Campbell and Brocky, and even Hooley, and cut the edge and score that way. Which I think the one time I would say we saw our attack run completely was when Gannon Moore scored a try. We ran 3 phases, pushed the ball out. Odds pushed it out. Cooley grabs the ball, dishes it off to Gannon Moore, and he's just off to the races. And what was it? DTH tries to tackle him. I think it was DTH, or was DTH in the centers? I need to look back at that roster. But whoever was wearing number 11 for Canada tries to tackle him, leaps, has his hands out, shoulder hits hip, and then I wouldn't say it contorts. He keeps running, but the player just if you're watching this, just turns, and then his momentum just takes him out to touch because Gannon Moore is he is a solid fellow, right?
Yeah.
This person just bounced off him because he wasn't able to get his arms completely around him and sort of hold on. But even there, you're talking about the 5-meter line. That was going to be a broken tackle anyways, and he was going to score. And at the game, it looked like he might have been pushed into touch, but I just rewatched the game today, and he was 2 meters inside. So that hit didn't even break Gannon Moore off the line he was running. That those wheels are nice to have on a guy.
It was DTH, Aaron.
Oh, it was DTH?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, but
you talked about kicking to the corner. Can we talk about that incredibly lucky try?
So here's a funny thing. So Canada did a lot more kick chase than us, right? But because of our centers and wings having speed, they weren't able to get actually chase the ball because we picked it up. So on this one, they recycle the ball. Aj passes it out. It gets to Hooley. He kicks it. I would say, in theory, a little short based on where Blaine Scully was, but it's a rugby ball, so it bounces kind of funny. And I want to say it hit the post, or it hit the corner post, but I thought a Canada player touched it, and Blaine Scully was going, and he was in the right place, and he had the ball awareness. He was like, nope, that's still in because it has not hit the ground on the outside, touches it down. And then some freaking idiot on Twitter, of course, says, this law needs to change. There shouldn't be allowed a fluke bounces on corner posts and it being counted as a try. Oh my gosh! Like, how about we celebrate the ball awareness of the Eagles captain for just having the like awareness and skill set to go, shit, that ball's still in. Grab, set down, try.
Hey, we should have started an SC top 10 petition.
Oh man, yeah. Oof.
Hey, Danny Barrett made it. Blaine Scully could have made it too.
So not to derail the conversation too much, but after all is said and done, so for the people watching right now that might not know, our Rugby World Cup pool is England, France, Argentina, and Tonga. After our performance in the PNC, obviously it's only Canada, and that's kind of like our feel good match of the year, or one of our feel good matches of the year every year. What is our outlook right now to you, Aaron, in our ability to win at least one game in the Rugby World Cup?
Right now, based on how we executed using like the good box kicking of an Eagle scrum half, because Eagle scrum halves are notorious for being awful. Like where the way Sean Davies angled all his kicks to push them, like thank you for the altitude, that would just push the balls 50 meters deep. That would allow us, like we showed off, I think, a lot of high skills in this game, and why that matters is we are going to face. I mean, even including Tonga, like 4 very highly skilled teams that can kick the ball and put them in places that we need to be able to win our exits and re-kick or collect or sprint towards so that we can play good defense. I thought we executed the game plan correctly based on how I saw they were playing, and it's good to know that our standards of a 47-19 victory is not enough. This makes me feel better, but it also makes me feel better going into this game against Samoa. It also makes me feel better going into this game against Japan, because I know that we are going to go into those games and compete. And then when we finish the PNC, I'll kind of have an idea. But Brian Hightower and Alex Corbizero said they are playing at a level where winning a game is going to be expected. But not only winning a game is going to be expected, and this is where I talk, about how we shouldn't target games. Like Tonga,
we should target games if we're the United States.
How I say how we shouldn't target games, but Alex said on the broadcast, it's like it's not just about winning one game. We're showing that we should win a game at the World Cup and that we should compete at the World Cup, because we've got sort of this. We talk about an American style of rugby. You've got big, fast, top-level athletes under good coaches competing at a high level and showing, that they can turn the screws on a team that also has a bunch of guys playing in, for tier one competitions. Like Evan Olmsted played with Auckland in the Mitre 10 last year and was sort of on the fringes of the Blues, trying to get a
contract. McGinty is still sticking around,
But Tyler Ardron was the starting number 8 for the Chiefs this last year. But I guess finally, to wrap this up, on the Canada side, it's really hard to find the positives. I think Kingsley is going to be consistent with his selection because he has to be going through the rest of the PNC, because he has to prepare this team for the World Cup. And there's not a whole lot of chopping and changes he can do at this point. That was sort of the ARC. It was the best chance he was going to hit. I think they've ID'd a top level 10 for them that, will get bedded in and will help them out in Peter Nelson. When it comes to his attack and distribution, I think it was pretty good. But their defense was porous. They couldn't halt any Eagles set piece. Their scrum was a mess. It's right now, and they're going to get beat up the rest of this tournament. So, but yeah, that was USA versus Canada.
All right, so moving on to the next round of the Pacific Nations Cup, we take on Samoa. Aaron?
So Samoa can be a tough physical challenge. Our last time out against them, Ruben Haas had to run the attack because Sean Davies was out with a concussion. And we pulled out a major win on the neutral site. We had the ability to play strong and physical rugby, which is what will be needed against them. Gonna need to use our skills, gonna need to rely on our system and just get the overmatch. It's really hard to say what we'll get from Samoa. They're very talented, they're athletic, they're physical, but can be quite undisciplined, which they were when we faced them in November. But against Tonga, those conditions, they were the better team, but those conditions did not allow anyone to see how these teams were really going to play. It was a lot of 8-man rugby in the mud. Like, there really wasn't guys breaking out because it was a typhoon. So I can't really say what they're going to play.
And a big thing about that though is that, like, whether you're a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 nation, when you're going up against a team in a typhoon, you're going to have to adjust your game, to some extent, and you're going to have to simplify it a little bit. Whereas in the Rugby World Cup, you're more often than not going to be having optimal weather conditions, and you're going to be playing the game that you want to be playing it. So games like that often are not very good tellers as to how things are going to play out on a larger stage against higher tier nations, because again, like I said, you have to simplify your game plan in order to compensate for the weather.
So I guess for Canada versus Fiji, good luck, guys. I Godspeed. Serious. Yeah.
So do we? I guess I have to ask this just so we can kind of appease our Canadian friends. Do they need a second MLR team?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
There's a lot of Canadians playing down here, but those are like a lot of guys in their pool are playing it here. A second MLR team gives them
there's that much more of an option. I think me and Aaron can agree. Vancouver, right?
Get on the West Coast.
Yeah, definitely. Vancouver and Toronto are definitely what you want within a Canadian market. Obviously, just being from having spent time in Vermont, I'm a little bit more biased towards maybe a Quebec or a Halifax side.
Montreal. That's what you want to do.
Because Montreal hates pit bulls, and I don't like people who hate dogs. So yeah, I'm all about a Quebec or a Halifax side, not a Montreal dog hating side.
Oh, hey, just to say, Denver hates dogs too. Just
good. Yeah. Well, guess what? There's a lot of things in Massachusetts that are legal in Denver as well, and Massachusetts is a lot better than Colorado. So if you ever want to visit, Josh, by all means, let me know.
I don't know. How's the humidity? Aaron, maybe you can.
No humidity.
It is. I mean, I would say Massachusetts is considered one of the best summer states in America. In the winter, I'm not a fan. But
nobody's a fan.
I've only been in the winter, so every time I see shit about the Cape in the summer, I get kind of jealous.
I do not live near the Cape, but I do live on the best summer part of Massachusetts. The Cape is fake Massachusetts. I'll just put that out there right now. That is not real Massachusetts. That is not representative of all of us. Please do not judge us based solely on the Cape.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go there's mansions all over the Cape. That's not a real place.
Oh, there's mansions all over a lot of places in Massachusetts. I just don't want to be compared to those people.
All right. Well, let's move on to everyone's favorite segment, questions from Bob.
Bob!
All right. First up from Colin45. Will Aaron apologize for saying Sears Justice Duru on the podcast last week? It's Justice Sears Duru, people.
How dare this guy you mentioned mix up the judge's name? How dare he? How dare he? I will find him and I will beat him for you.
All right. Second question from our friend Bill Beck, MD, at the Benjamin Rush on Twitter. You need an emergency pod after that butt kicking, USA versus Canada.
I mean, we're doing that now, I guess.
We're giving you regularly
scheduled programming.
Yeah.
I suppose we could have done a live reaction or something, but you and I were like doing media things.
I considered it. I was just drunk enough, like after the game ended, to be like, should I go on Twitter live right now, just like with the official account, just. I don't need DMs from Corey telling me to fuck off though, so I decided not to.
Oh man!
All right, question from our friend Munster CR37: Is AER really moving to San Antonio?
Yes, Corey, it is an option. I know there is another option that is Circuit of the Americas. I know that would be more palatable to the Austinites because they want to keep their team. But San Antonio is in their catchment area. It was their highest attended and highest sold ticket game. So maybe, I don't know.
So one thing I will say after having talked to some people in Austin, there's this idea that after the exit of Thierry Dupont, and after the largely metaphorical ostracization of Richard Osborne, there's kind of like this idea that they want to reset in Houston, in Austin. That they kind of want to, take a step back, take a breath, and now, and kind of and do things that they thought they were supposed to be doing, like in their own way, shape, and form. So. We'll see, but yeah, no, definitely San Antonio's an option. Ohio might be an option. We'll see.
All right, I think that about wraps us up, Josh.
Yeah. I say, any final thoughts, guys?
Beat Samoa.
Yeah, beat Samoa. Let's go PNC 2019.
All right. Well, on our way out, please note that all opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of the hosts and guests. They do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or practices of Major League Rugby teams or the league. Aaron Castro is employed by Major League Rugby. Liam Poach is now employed by Mystic River Rugby and the New England Free Jacks. Be sure to tune in next week or whenever we figure out our issues. We're usually live on YouTube each Monday night and available on your favorite podcast platform each Wednesday morning. If you like what we do, please subscribe to our YouTube and iTunes feeds. It helps other folks find us. And be sure to share your own news, views, and abuse with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on the MLR Rugby subreddit, which you can find at reddit.com/r/MLRugby. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.